Okay, a bit of a false start, but we got that sorted out. It's cool. It's works. All right. Um, anyways, thank you very much for tuning in to Brainy the RPG Cat. Once again, I am Brainy the RPG Cat, and tonight we are going to uh, well, do a little ventriloquism first of all. Hang on a second. Let me just vanish that and just walk back in. No, no, no scuff at the beginning of the stream. No siree. La 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 la. Um, yeah, I think it's that my microphone is on my avatar. I'll be fixing that in a moment. Um, anyways, tonight's show is going to be Tabletop Lore. We're going to be looking a little bit more into the Solo Adventurers Toolbox, which was put together by dmsguild.com, and then we're going to go into part 4 of our overview of Eberron Rising from the Last War. So that's not where the microphone settings are, silly cat. All right. Um, when we last left off with Eberron, uh, we were discussing some of the villages, and so we're going to do probably the rest of the villages. And so, let's see. Okay, well, sheesh. Uh, okay, well, yeah, psychic speech. I am speaking to you telepathically, not unlike Garfield. Uh, the way my microphone is registering, I think there was just a recent update to it, and the recent update is using a completely different driver. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get through the main screen, anyways. Once again, the stream is brought to you by GreatMedia.games. We're a partner with GreatMedia.games to bring you inexpensive TCG single cards. Visit GreatMedia.games and use the code 10finity at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. We are also assisting in a campaign for Great Media regarding Extra Life, and we're going to be doing this throughout the holiday season. If you're interested in making a donation, supporting Children's Hospital Colorado, please visit my Extra Life page. Be sure to leave a donation. The other members of the team, they're in the middle of a 24-hour streamathon in order to kick this off, and we're probably going to be going there in a moment uh, in order to see how they've been doing with their side of the whole affair. Okay, so uh, almost got that. Well, so yeah, unfortunately, this isn't working. What I'm gonna do is I'm just going to draw up a PNG tube right now. See, who can we be that is not too offensive to tonight's stream? I don't know if we're quite going back to Zombrainy yet, but okay. Well, I just have to close that. Um, microphone. Microphone isn't working in this either. It's not an issue with the fix. It's just that the drivers changed, and so it's not fully. It's not completely functional. So that's probably just something I'm gonna have to work with off stream. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna continue up like this. Okay, so let me zoom into this a little bit more. We're on to chapter 4 of the Solo Adventurers Toolbox. Chapter 4 Wilderness Encounters. This is a D100 table of pre-made wilderness encounters. You can use this every now and then to provide ready-made events for your player characters. Alternatively, you can use tables in Chapter 16 to generate an infinite number of random encounters. All right. Okay, well, I just kind of messed it up a little bit by selecting a different microphone. So, my jaw's working now. All right. Uh, did I move off my desktop audio, though? So, that should still be playing. Let me make it clear it isn't. Right, well, in one functioning object and out another. I seem to have completely deleted my desktop audio at this point. Okay, so where were we? Oh, yes. Some of the encounters listed below will result in quests. The generation is covered in Chapter 7. Other roles will result in a monster being encountered. That will take you to Chapter 16. And so the encounters below have been left open ended, but there's potential to them for be perfect every single time. Use a question and answer mechanic in order to fill in the details. Or you could use story element interaction tables to spice things up a bit. So I think I updated drivers recently, and that's probably the issue that I'm having with the sound drivers. I probably should have rebooted my computer before I came on. All right, so wilderness encounters of 1D 100. 1 through 4, there's a small dungeon or a crypt. Purpose and history are unknown. If entering, then go to random dungeon generator. On a 5, a ready-made camp is found, or a cozy cave that could potentially be used as shelter for the night, or a base wall exploding. Or exploring. Is it inhabited? Uh Number 5 is a ready-made camp found or a cozy cave that could potentially be used as shelter for the night or a base while exploring. Is it inhabited? A small creek babbling pleasantly or a large crack bubbling pungently? Well, I mean, you're kind of looking at different sides of parts of an extreme when it comes to that. Number 7 is a storm on the horizon. Lightning is dancing under dark gray clouds. Number 8 is a sinkhole that is opened up nearby. Number 9 is abandoned empty town. Number 11 through 15 is an NPC who gives information about a possible quest. Go to Chapter 7 and generate a quest. Number 16 is an abandoned campsite. Number 17 is a tree with what looks like druid markings. Uh, Number 18 is survivors of some sort of attack, and boy, do they have a tale to tell. Number 19 is a plundered barrow, a burial mound, but did they get everything? And what still waits there? And there's 50% chance that it's mostly empty. On the road, a dropped item, a backpack. This is at a 20. On a road, a dropped item, a backpack, a purse with interesting contents, a hat with a note tucked inside, an engraved ring. It could be anything. Use the Q&A roll in order to figure out the details. Uh, Number 21, Interesting Traveler. This is a character who has obviously seen some things. Um, say. All right. Just to see if on an outside chance I actually managed to fix my playlist that time. Number 23, prisoners being escorted in a heavily armored cart. And so that by itself, I think, if you were to see something like that, then in my situation, I would immediately launch an encounter there. Is the prisoners escape, and that just causes a situation where you go into initiative. Although, maybe I'm being a bit too glib about it. So number 24, interesting geological feature. Use the Q&A mechanic to find out what. Number 25, you find a discarded backpack with some intriguing contents. Number 26, an odd noise is coming from a distance ahead. Number 27, strange lights in the nearby hills are attracting your attention. Number 28, you stumble across an orchard filled with ripe and delicious fruit. The owner is nowhere in sight. Number 29, bounty hunters in search of a fugitive. Hey, have you seen anyone? And who they're working for is currently unclear. Number 30, sudden and abrupt change in weather. Number 31, abandoned mine, dwarven or otherwise. 32, you hear a howling in the distance. It could be wolves, but the sound is strange somehow. Number 33, there's debris from a recent large battle. Who fought here, and who won, and how recent was this? Number 34 is a humanoid corpse. A 25% chance you actually find a clue. Number 35, a bird or some other creature rolling the creature table from chapter 14 begins talking to you in fluent common and not just mindless parroting. Guys, if I'm going to be the star of this upcoming solo adventure, I am pretty sure an animal encounter is not what we're looking for, or maybe it is, Maybe like there's a talking raven comes by and there's a significant part of the campaign where I would choose to want to eat it. All right. So, just like previously, I'm going to try to jury rig something. No such luck. I think the playlist just kind of had froze to me the first time. Dead in the water. Advance the track. Can you do that? Okay. I'm assuming something's gonna play there. Um, Click OK on that. Yeah, bird proceeds to spew fart and burp sounds for hours. Interestingly, I have been in that encounter. I've been in that encounter more than once as well. I'm gonna change the audio to default. Or truth? Yeah. In more than one situation. Okay, so I'm probably not going to be able to tell, but okay, well, it looks like I'm finally getting music, but it's very, very faint, so you know, I'm just slowly in the background, just trying to fix all of the scuff on the stream, and instead of just reading the table, we've got a timeline here. We've got to finish X amount of this before the stream ends. Let me see. Oop, I think I scrolled down one whole page. No, I didn't. Okay. Okay, a royal noble personage and their entourage passes in an opulent carriage. Number 37, a flock of birds circles over a point somewhere overhead. Number 38, you find an old ruined monument. Is it to a god, a famous local figure, or something else? 39 is a traveler with information / warning about a situation in the next settlement. 41, you reach a bridge over a small river. The bridge is washed out. Travelers are waiting here, unsure what to do. Number 42, you find an injured beast. Number 43, a farmer invites you to his house to a meal and possibly some of his homebrew, ale, or meat as well. Number 44, an overturned or a broken down cart. Is it attended? 45 through 50 is a monster ambush, so let me see. Out of 100, 5 of these are labeled as a monster ambush. So that's just really the slight increase that they are giving towards creating all of these, turning all of these into a random encounter. 51, an animal wanders across your path. It glances up to you, but it doesn't seem particularly bothered by your presence. 52, a trap creature, a humanoid, a monster, or what type of trap? An abandoned ruined structure of some kind, which may or may not have a subterranean component. 56, an old hermit. What's he babbling about? 57, a creepy and unsettling token or sign. 58, a traveling merchant. 59, a traveling adventurer who is impressed and wants to join the party. And then number 60 to 65, so I guess 40 through 45 counted as a wild animal encounter, while 60 through 65 is a level appropriate medium monster encounter, and we should check chapter 16 for that. Okay. Number 66 is a traveler resting by the side of the road, begins pointing and laughing uproariously at you. Is she mad? Number 67, heavily guarded transport passes. Number 68 is a traveling sage or archivist. 69 is a group of bandits, human or otherwise, who demand a toll from you. Number 70 through 75 is a level appropriate hard encounter. So that has encapsulated roughly about 15 of the whole D100 table. And so it's also interesting to point out that this actually is a D100 table, because all of the other tables before it were also considered to be D100 rolls, but they were also split into percentages of 4 or percentages of 6, which means you could roll a D4 and you could roll a D6 and you would have the same outcome. So I guess, if you do a solo adventure in this engine, what you would do is you would always be rolling the percentage dice. And, that's probably just an economic way of doing it. You'd roll a D100 for everything. And then you would either measure it by percentage, or you would measure it by one of the numbers on the D100, depending on which table you are looking at. The poor hermit just wants company. Well, clearly he's not a very good conversationalist. Otherwise, he would have company. And knowing myself, I would probably stop for a very long time and actually teach that hermit how to be more of a people person. Number 76, starving family begging for gold or food. Okay. Number 78 is a traveling troupe of performers. 80% chance that they're friendly. Number 79 is a traveling merchant, but his wares are not ordinary. In fact, some of it is illegal. Is he a smuggler? Is he a drug dealer? Is he a heist thief? 80 is a hunter's, travelers, or adventurers, captain relaxing. 81, you see a low rocky hill where faces have been carved into the rocks along with the shape of various beasts. It is artfully done and seems to tell some sort of story. 82, you see a track leading away from the road and into the forest hills. Who knows where it leads? 83, bandits waylay you and demand all of your money. 84, on a lonely stretch of road, you see a lone cabin but cannot tell if it is inhabited or not. 85, a long forgotten battlefield. How many have died here? 86 is a tower visible off the road for some distance. 87 is patrol from the nearest settlement. 88 is the unmarked settlement. 89 is the road disappearing and the place looks nothing like it does on the map. From 90 to 94, an NPC appears with a quest, and then you would roll the Chapter 7 random generated table to figure out what that quest is. And finally, level 95 through 100 is a monster. Level appropriate encounter. And so on a 1, 2, 3 it would be hard, and then on a 4 it would be deadly. So anything between 95 and 100 would be a virtually impossible monster encounter. Okay, chapter 5. So, the significant amount of the book from this point forward is really just going to be D100 table. So, this is the D100 table for urban encounters. Anytime you're in a village or anything of the nature, then you use this table. One is you witness a crime and they have a chance to stop the criminal. If you do, you win the favor of the local constabulary. If you try to but fail, the guard gives you an opportunity to keep tracking down the criminal. If you do nothing, you must convince the guard you are not an accomplice. Number 2 is a stampede of pigs. Given how complex number 1 was, it seems to be a little bit anticlimactic. You witness a crime, and you might be unfortunately framed for it, or you run into a stampede of pigs. Piggies! Yes, piggies are delightful. It's just a New York sidewalk. I'm going to make sure that your chat message never makes it to the municipality of New York City. Thank you very much for tuning in, Ver499. Let's see. A cry rings out through the town. An army is missing outside of the gates. Are they human? Are they orc? Are they mind flayer? You'd better go and find out right now, or flee. Number 4, a mysterious hooded beggar conspicuously ducks into an alley as they walk by. They appeared to have a disfigurement, or perhaps they were trying to hide from people. That's kind of a strange parallel. I mean, you think, somebody is skulking down the street. Maybe he's trying to avoid the people that are on the street, or he could have a disfigurement. I mean, I would assume, if a person was limping, they might have an injury, that they might have a disability. I wouldn't think of them as having a disfigurement. Maybe who was trying to cover his face. That would make sense if you were to do it that way. A mysterious hooded beggar ducks into an alley and covers his face. Maybe he was disfigured, or maybe he was trying to hide from people. That one makes a little bit more sense. Number 5, a guided tour proceeds past. The guide drops a particularly tasty snippet of local knowledge that the PC was unaware of. Number 6, a shady figure beckons from an alley. They have wondrous items for sale, they say. Number 7, 2 old ladies, witches by some sort by the look of them, beg you to take a creature off their hands. Creature table, chapter 14. It never shuts up, they tell you. Please, we'll pay you. We just want to get rid of the darn thing. The creature happens to be a trapped soul of a former adventurer. Wow, this is extreme. I would base a whole campaign on the premise that you're trying to change a talking creature back into a human. Number 8, 2 men are arguing about something. One turns to a PC and says, "You look like a reasonable man. What do you think?" It could be literally anything at all, and it could result in a combat, a job, or just more arguments. So, if spending a lot of time in the woods talking to a random hermit wasn't frustrating enough, there's just some Karen in the middle of town that, wants to pick a fight with you. Number 9, there's a quest board with rewards for deeds done. Somebody has rats in their cellar, missing town person, in the woods nearby, simple things or complex that give you little earnings to keep you exploring the city. I think there might be a different table for generating a quest board in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but don't quote me on that. I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to look on that myself. Number 10, a card shark or a con artist is busking in the street, and a large crowd gathers. Number 11, 2 local thugs are strong-arming a merchant for gold. You can help the merchant, but doing so annoys the local gang. Or a variation is that the merchant is a thief and the thugs are trying to recover their stolen money. Number 12, you notice a group of villagers attempting to put out a nearby house fire. This looks like it could easily spread to neighboring houses, possibly affecting the whole town. Number 13, a peddler attempts to sell you a trinket or a minor magic item. Number 14, a giant rat crawls off a storm drain and gets into a fight with a dog. And hopefully you're not too close to that. Otherwise, you would consider, putting, starting an encounter from that point. Number 15, a minor earthquake shakes things up, and in the ensuing panic, looters take advantage. Does the party join them, or does the party stop them? Number 16, a merchant asking for help stopping local children with slingshots. Is that really something that I want to get involved in? Because kids will be kids. Number 17, a young street urchin is in the lobby, cornered either by thugs or stray dogs. So, as I recall, when we were looking at the D&D Beyond sheets, that we were using street urchin was something that was, very quickly going to become a background designation for some people. So, that we have, slightly more precision tools in the event that we want to put a street urchin into the Dungeons & Dragons game. Oh, excuse me. Number 18. The street is having a block party tomorrow, and they need help setting up. Oh, goody. It's not enough that there's a quest board. It's not enough that, I'm looking for an adventurer. I just have to help somebody out with their Harvest Festival decorations. Number 19, someone sentenced to death. You happen across the hanging and the beheading before it concludes. What do you do? Number 20 through 25 is a monster, and so just like with the forest table, in 5 number increments, we're going to choose alternatively easy, medium, or hard monsters for these encounters. Number 26, a conman is selling jewels and rare components that you might need. Number 27, a chamber pot is emptied from above. Make a DC 13 dex save to avoid the chamber pot. If unsuccessful, you disadvantage on all charisma and stealth-related rolls until you have a bath and change clothes. Optionally, make a con save versus filth fever. Oh, yeah. Covered in pee! Covered in pee. I didn't roll away fast enough, and now I'm covered in pee. Maxillian, hello. Thank you very much for tuning in. So, this is Brainy the RPG Cat, and we're doing Tabletop Lore, where we read through game books and try to uncover the contents of which that we can use in order to develop games. So, number 28, a scrap of paper is pressed into your hand by a young man who looks at you desperately before turning and running away. You turn over the note and you read it. Please help. He's coming for us all. Maxillian says, I see lore in title. Can I offer some headcanon? Oh, yeah, sure. By all means. As long as it's, nothing too untoward, then, yeah, you're free to talk about, any kind of fiction or hypothetical hypothetical information in the chat. Let's see. As the mimic changes shape, you hear bones crunching, tendons, and ligaments tearing. It generates an enormous amount of heat as the creature quickly realigns its internal organs. The mimic doesn't seem to care. It evolved without pain receptors. Ooh, that's scary. That is the beginning of a truly frightening monster right there. And so, when I have a tendency to develop, just kind of plot flavor like that, is that when I read a standard guidebook, I would, chase it by, developing something specific about the monsters that needs to be addressed. And so that is a trick that I got from the book The Monsters Know What They're Doing by Keith Ammon. And there's a significant amount of online material that he wrote as well, so it's definitely something that you can look into. That's a creepy pasta monster. That sounds intense. That does indeed sound intense. Um, if I ever wanted to make a particularly hard mimic encounter, I would probably do something like that. A member of the local guard asks you what your business is in town. Okay, that's pretty standard bear. Stop, thief! You feel your arms being grabbed. The local guard apprehended you, accusing you of stealing jewels belonging to a noble or royal, searching your clothes and your bag. They successfully turn up the jewels in questions, but you have never seen them before. Number 31. A lady, a young man on the balcony, blows you a kiss and then runs away. Number 32. A beggar crouches in a dark corner, clearly diseased. Um, Number 33. Someone mistakes you for a mercenary or a famous performer or an old friend. They have face blindness. 2% of the population have it. So I guess it's, yeah, when the NPC approaches, they confuse you for someone else. And, yeah, that could be pretty interesting. You know, as a neurodivergent, I have a tendency to do exactly the opposite. A person will walk up to me and they'll say, "Hey, how are you doing, buddy?" And I'll have no idea who they are because I've already forgotten something like that. And so maybe I would jot that down as an alternative for this one. Let me see. Number 34, a bard strikes up a song and starts following you around. Number 35, a beggar notices the group and offers you to guide them around in exchange for some coin. Number 36, a bar fight bursts out in the street and may involve a PC. So, pretty interestingly, I recently gave somebody in Great Media the suggestion to have the audience break out into a bar fight during a gladiator competition. So every once in a while, you would have to do a dex roll in order to duck a beer stein or something that was being thrown into the arena by the people who are fighting in the stands. Number 37, you're propositioned. A person of the night propositions a player, but they might not be all what they seem. So, last week we were discussing courtesans, and so when we got another example in this scenario. We have a person of the night. There's really the good chance that the author of this book didn't even want to say courtesan because they felt that was more of a direct hook for D&D fiction, and so just didn't want to step on that. A drunkard sees you and mistakes them for friends or enemies, or perhaps throws up on you. I've had that in real life a couple of times. Well, except for the throw up. 39. A person who claims to be a fan of the PC begins to follow them around. Okay, so that makes it distinguished from number 34. No, not quite. 33. That's what it was. So yeah, there is a factor in here that suggests that you find somebody who's a fan of the PC, but they might not know who they are. They might just be there, and they might just be a nuisance. And then it is also just a slant on number 34. If a bard shows up and just starts playing a song, it's really because they want the hero's attention, and they more than likely want to get paid for it as well. Number 40, a snake oil salesman has gathered a crowd and has actors in the group to fool people into buying worthless potions. Bonus, they're not actually worthless, but they're definitely not as advertised. A healing potion that's really gaseous, make Q&A rolls to determine results. In that situation, and so I've actually seen this one done in a game before. The DM actually gave us just a handful of potions to buy that sometime during the confusion of a encounter, the labels came off. So he didn't actually know what they were. And so we just bought these potions, and then we made the decision as a group whether or not to take one and potentially face the consequences. Number 41, a group of smugglers coming out of a sewer grate with a crate of goods. Number 42, an old female fortune teller beckons you from her tent. Number 43, a man tumbles out of a tavern window. He's fully dressed in nobleman's garb. A female half-orc jumps out after him, letting out a war cry as he gets up, and he runs for his life, screaming for help. Do you help her and run him down, or do you get in her way? It's possible, no matter who you help, they both will attack you. Oh no, you drank the potion of instant death. Yeah, well, fortunately, it didn't come to that. We knew that they were all magical potions, and none of them were, poison or anything of the like. Number 44, a street dog runs past with a human hand in its mouth, wearing a large, very obvious jeweled ring. You chase the dog to find out what happened to the owner or the ring and hand. 45, someone's horse is spooked and it charges through the streets, whether it's dragging a wagon or just a rider. It is panicked and it needs to be stopped. Number 46, you find a map discarded on the street or just a fragment of one, which arouses your curiosity. It shows a ruin and then there's a sketch of an artifact. Is that magical? Perhaps a local mage could help you decode this. Number 47, a drunk wakes up nearby. Where am I? My weapons, my belongings are gone. Number 48, you stop to listen to a talented storyteller relate a story about a famous adventurer and his beast companion. Part of the story is unresolved, however, and it makes you think. It would certainly make me think, because I would probably try to come up with the legend right on the spot, and I would try to assume that it was something good and something that could work as a story beat. 49, you feel a thwack on the side of your head and turn to see that a bunch of drunk young nobles are pelting passengers by with rotten vegetables, laughing as they do so. Number 50 through 55 is a level appropriate medium encounter. Number 56, your sharp eye spots a pickpocket deftly receive a noble woman with an expensive necklace. Number 57, a wizard is carrying a bag full of potions when suddenly the bag rips, and several potions drop out and smash on the ground, exploding with various dramatic effects. So, that's unfortunate. I'm trying to think about, what would immediately follow from that, because, these are all town encounters, but, there's a significant amount of things that I would think, well, my character is fortunately not involved in that situation, so he would more than likely move on. And yes, I'm talking about Brainy. 59, a female priestess castigating a businesswoman who set up her wares before the temple of Lathander, or any good-aligned god, except this business is no ordinary business. A female slaver is parading her wares, selling slaves to whoever's buying. Oh my god. It's a slightly more justifiable New Testament situation. 60 through 62, something occurs or you find something that requires a roll d10, acrobatics, dex save, strength or athletics, stealth, con, or intelligence, investigation, arcana. So just everything that is effectively on in the full range of the table. And so use the Q&A rolls or story element interaction rolls to find out what. From 63 to 65, something occurs. You find something that requires a animal handling check, inside check. Oh, I already read that one. 66 to 69, you meet an NPC who gives you information about a possible quest. Go to chapter 7 and generate a quest, which you may or may not accept. 70 through 75 is a monster. It's a level appropriate hard encounter. Number 76, you're stopped by the local guard who wants to congratulate you on your recent successful quest, but how do they know about it? 77, a PC hears a rumor about a job that a local priest might have, apparently, or so the rumor goes. Something is going on in the sacred catacombs beneath the streets. 78, you pass a house which is all boarded up. The gates are locked. A passerby informs you that this is the house of a local nobleman who hasn't been seen in years. 79, you see a dice game going on in the alley off of the street that you're walking Number 80, a cleric stands up atop a box on the road's side, spouting vitriol and nasty rumors about the town's leader, and the cleric has attracted quite a crowd. Number 81, a group of protesters is set up outside the town hall protesting the new road, which is planned to run right through the middle of their settlement, some distance out of town. I love haunted house adventures. Yeah, I like haunted house adventures too. There's a really great one in Tales from the Yawning Portal, which is a collection of really hard classic D&D dungeons in 5e. 82. A merchant asks you to mind his cart for him while he chases a thief who's stolen merch from it. He then leaves and doesn't return for a very long time. 83. A street urchin appears, promising divine favor if the PC comes and volunteers an hour of service at a nearby temple. 84. A shopkeeper is attacking a wasp nest outside of his shop with a broom. He dislodges it and it crashes into the ground, engulfing him in a swarm of insects. Your NPC keeps bees. I mean, it's kind of cute, you know. Your NPC keeps bees. How old is your NPC? Because he's definitely beekeeping age. 2 half-orcs are engaged in a full-on brawl outside a nearby tavern. Apparently, one thinks the other cheated at dice. Well, you know, cut me in for some of that action, because if somebody cheated at that dice, I would feel particularly angry about that. Number 86, religious pilgrims making their way quietly through the streets are being mocked and cheered by a group of elven teenagers. Once again, is that, you know, I kind of really just don't want to get involved in the skirmishes of the young people. They're young. They're going to learn from their experiences. This does not need wizard intervention. Number 87, a tether cloak blows up on the street. Catching a hold of it, you find a note in one of its pockets. Number 88, someone has released a hallucinogenic substance into the air, and people are in various states of intoxication. You know, once again, this would actually amount to a whole single campaign for me. Because you got to find out what it is in the air, and you've got to make sure that and then you just have to figure out, you know, what kind of spell has befallen everybody, and then you clear it while you were still in the town. Off GMG gave me a shout out to some. Oh, that was actually 8 hours ago. Okay, I thought he was doing it while he was in the midst of his recent marathon, but there's a very good chance he's way too busy for that. 89. A distraught mother cannot find her child and is convinced it's been kidnapped. She is moving from person to person, begging to help. So once again, good for a one-off. A sudden gust of wind whips through the town, sending stalls toppling over, hats flying, stacks of parchment fluttering down the street, and perhaps the PC discovers something as a result, because of a very large gust of wind. A 91. A dwarf armed with a great axe is threatening a cowering halfling who is shaking with fear. The dwarf is living with rage, but has just been disarmed by the town guard. What is the situation? Has the halfling wronged him in some way? Well, I mean, so that's just really helps in order to put a specific type of NPC into the scene. Number 92, an overturned cart ahead is causing gridlock. The street is jammed with traffic. Number 93, oh, you love? Looking for a good time? A prostitute of any sex or race begins soliciting you earnestly. What's the difference between a prostitute and a woman of the night in this campaign? You know, maybe Woman of the Night is a little bit more film noir. And then she walked into my life. Little did I know how badly that this was going to change my detective situation. Just off of the top of my head. 94, suddenly out of the blue, you see a mage of some sort simply appear in the middle of the street. Number 95 through 95, an NPC appears with a quest, and then 100 would be a level appropriate deadly encounter. Because you don't run into too many Uber monsters when you're just hanging out in the street. Okay. Chapters. Oh well, let me see. Just look at the clock. Are we good? Okay, so we're almost at an hour with this. So I think we're just going to stick a pin in chapter 6, and we're going to go on to the rest of Eberron. Okay, so the last, I think the last city that we talked about was Drome. Drome was the realm of the witch folk and the scary abomination and monster types that exist in Eberron. And so we're gonna go on to this one. This is the Elden Reaches. OS Devon says, "I'm happy to see how varied this is." Well, when you say that, is that the difference between the solo adventurers toolbox, or is it the difference between the different villages in Eberron? Yeah, it is the solo adventures. Yeah. So once again, is that I'm going to work on developing that and then bringing it to chat as a stream, and so probably the thing I'm most going to have to work on is having an online way to file through all of the tables, and then from that point forward is that I would need to have the ability to jump from one table to another, be able to prompt all of the people in chat with the dice rolls. And this is one other thing that I was thinking about, is that I think I want to create a second character for chat, and in order to do that, I would probably ask the chat in the room at the time who they want to portray, and maybe just make that into a one-off. And so every single solo adventure scenario would be me, an NPC created by the chat room at the time, and I would also give them the opportunity in order to make singular combat roles so that they would be able to help out with monster encounters, etc. I might also ask the chat if they want to ask questions, and then they can roll they can do their skill rolls at the rate of a 1d20 plus 2, something like that. Maybe it would be helpful in order to come up with just a standard stat list and then leave the racing class out of it during every single encounter. But if I were to do that, it would be really hard in order to have any mage in that situation, because I would have to come up with a standardized spell list for every kind of mage if I were going to attempt that. So, well, it's a good thing that I'm Brainy. I'm playing the wizard. I will handle the spell casting. Well, anyways, this is all just kind of cloud talk at the moment. I'm still developing the show. Well, I'm going to keep you posted. All right. So, the Elden Reaches. The capital is Greenheart. The hallmarks are agriculture, animal husbandry, and druidic magic. A stretch of fertile farmlands borders a vast, unnamed forest. Farmers tend the fields, while tribes of shifters and circles of druids and rangers roam through the woods. And these are the Elden Reaches. Clearly, the area that was made specifically for nature-based classes. Druids and shifters dwell in the towering wood for thousands of years, but the eastern familiars of the Reaches were part of the Aundair until the last war. The lords of the Aundair focused their resources on the war effort, ignoring banditry and other problems faced by the farmers of the east. The Wardens of the Wood, largest of the Druid sects, came to the aids of these farmers. 50 years ago, the people of eastern Aundair seceded and formed the Elden Reaches. The Treaty of Thronehold recognized the Reaches as a nation, but its citizens fear Aundair will once again try to reclaim the region. Druidic magic is central to life in the Elden Reaches. People seek to live in harmony with the natural world, and each community has a druidic advisor who helps with planning and planting. The Towering Wood is also home to tribes of shifters who maintain a nomadic existence. The Wardens of the Wood uphold order and settle disputes, and the great druid Olian, an awakened great pride, is the spiritual leader of the Reaches. Interesting things about the Elden Reaches. The Towering Wood is vast and untamed. The Wardens of the Wood seek to protect travelers, but swaths of forests remain entirely untouched by a human or a shifter. Such areas could hold giant beasts never seen in the outside world. This would be a good place to introduce a giant. Or relics from a previous age, artifacts or ruins created by the demons. Or the terrifying Dalkier. I have no idea what a Dalkier is. Let's try to see if we can find a search engine reference for that. Dalkayr. They're a race in the Eberron campaign settings, Lords of the Plain. They are mortal and immensely powerful and have legions of monsters created by them. Okay, so they're a race. They were probably outlined in the race section, but it's been so long that I've completely forgotten about them. Interesting things about the hang on. Great ones. Okay, here we are. The Fae have a strong presence in the Towering Wood. Even outside the Fae stronghold of Twilight Demence, manifest zones linked to Thelanis allow for passage between worlds. The Elden Reaches are a logical origin for a character with ties to the Fray. Druidic magic is a vital tool in the Elden Reaches. Residents use animal messengers to carry communications between villagers, and beasts perform vital services. Good berry wine takes the place of a House Fidelis hearing. Communities include awakened animals and plants as members. Yeah, they seem vaguely familiar. So it might probably just be another class of infernal. I think that's really what the other definition was telling me. And I clicked away from the other definition, so I would have to, write it in again if I wanted to get more specific. When creating an Eldeen character or NPC, consider the following. Are you farm or forest? Did you grow up in the farms, or did you spend your childhood in the Towering Wood? Are you comfortable in buildings, or do you prefer the open air? Natural magic. Druidic traditions play an important role in Eldeen society. If you're a druid or a ranger, are you a stoic warden of the wood? Are you a stoic warden of the wood, or a grim child of winter? Even if you're not a spellcaster, the magic initiative feat can provide you with a few spells to reflect a basic initiation into the druidic mysteries. A land with no lords. The Reachers are fiercely independent. They broke with Undair, and they bow to no monarch. The folk of the Reaches value talent over titles. The Eldeen respect the guidance of the druids, but they all work together to solve their problems. No one gives orders to a Reacher. Cities and sites, the Gloaming. The region of the Towering Wood has strong ties to the sinister plane of Mabar, charged with negative energy, and undead and other malevolent creatures lurk in its shadows. So it's really just kind of the flip side to an all-natural area. Green Heart, the grove of the Archdruid Oalian. It's either Oalian or Oalian. The Awakened Great Pine is a place of great primal power. The Wardens of the Wood are based around Greenheart, but the Druid circles of the Elden Reaches send emissaries to Greenheart when they have important matters to discuss. The Twilight Demence, located within the Towering Wood. The Twilight Demence has close ties to the fairy court of Thelanis. Fae abound in this forest, and those who wander may stumble upon the city of Rosenthorn, the domain of a powerful archfey called the King of Summer. Fae campaigns are excellent campaigns. So, Devin in the chat says, I could go for a good berry or two. Yeah, but they were kind of referencing good berry wine, which kind of concerns me because, okay, so good berry takes poisonous berries and it turns it into food that is so healthy that it actually is capable of curing you the same way that a health potion would. If you were going to make wine from that, is it going to be alcoholic? Is that going to be something that's actually going to put you down? Because it's made out of, healthy. It's made out of a very healthy fruit. So, it's virtually the same as drinking a health potion, but, Can you ferment a good berry? That's another question that you would ask. Is that even possible to ferment a good berry? Because if you're taking poisonous fruit and you're turning it good, is it ever going to turn bad? That would be my question. And finally, Varma, the largest city in the Reaches, serves as the gateway for commerce with the world beyond. Reacher merchants come from far and wide to sell their goods in the markets of Varna. All the Dragonmark houses have outposts in Varna, but it is the ancestral seat of House Vidalis as it houses their largest enclave. The aftermath of the last war, the farmers of the Eastern Eldine seceded from Onder during the last war, and tensions between the two nations remain high. Most Reachers believe it is only a matter of time until Onder tries to reclaim the region, and every village has a militia ready to serve. The people of the Reaches value hospitality and regard all people as equals. But the fear of Ondarian aggression can cause Reachers to treat foreigners with suspicion or hostility. Okay, Karnath. Capital is Korth. Hallmarks are ale, dairy, glass, livestock, lumber, martial discipline, paper, textiles, and undead. I wonder how that differs from animal husbandry, which they had mentioned in the previous village. In a nation of storms and long winters, the grim and stoic Karns are accustomed to enduring hardship without complaint. First and foremost, Karnath is known for its military tradition. Strength, strategy, and discipline are the core values of Karnath. Karnath's soldiers might be the finest in Corvair, but they lack the magical support of Onder or Thrain, which evened the odds during the last war. Nonetheless, Karns are proud of their martial history, and most are convinced that they would have eventually won the last war. I swear we would have. We would have. If we didn't play a part in causing a disaster that killed hundreds of people, we totally would have won that war. Karnath suffered a series of severe food shortages and plagues early in the last war. As a result, the king embraced the blood of Vol as the national religion. The priests of this faith bolstered Karnath's forces with undead, the current significant number of skeletons and zombies in service. I think I skipped a line. The current king, Kaisus Il Wynarn III, broke ties with the blood of Vol and has stopped creating new undead. But Karnath still has a significant number of skeletons and zombies in service. Many Karns still believe in the blood of Vol and approve of the use of the undead, but just as many feel that the practice disgraces Karnath's proud military history, and the necromancers might have been responsible for the famines and plagues. So, I think we discussed this specific group in an earlier chapter. They were discussing that, this group, the Karnathians, would raise the dead out of interest of having additional soldiers in the Great War. And so as a result, they are a village that just has free roaming undead in it from this point. Interesting things about Karnath. Reckonmark Academy is the premier military institute of Corvair. Prior to the last war, all of Galafar's officers trained at Reckonmark. The sovereign host has regarded its place as the dominant region of Karnath, but as the blood of Vol retains a strong following, communities that practice the faith still use skeletons and zombies as gods or laborers. The laws of Karnath are harsher than those in other treaty nations, almost approaching a state of martial law. Definitely don't violate the law, because there's just as good a likelihood that you'd be eaten alive as you would be thrown in prison for eternity. Okay, from the Korenberg Chronicle, in the thrall of the Vampire King. Actually, that's the wrong one. No, actually, I think I was right. That was in the Hall of the Mountain King. Caius Ilwarnarn III emerged from the shadows like a villain in one of Kessler's plays. His guardians kept him hidden during his youth, while his Aunt Marana served as a regent of Karnath. So it was a surprise to many when he burst forth to claim his crown and his power, all the more so because of his uncanny resemblance to Caius I, the ruler who plunged Karnath into the last war and instituted the brutal system of laws that bears his name. Given the circumstances of Caius III's ascension, It is hardly surprising that the new king would face challenges from the proud warlords of Karnath. Some commend his lineage and the ability to command, but the most unusual challenge came from the warlord Drago Thal. Was Caius III actually alive? Caius I had elevated the blood of Vol in Karnath and instituted the use of undead as weapons of war. Drago Thal asserted that Caius III was actually Caius I, a vampiric monster seeking to drain the lifeblood of Karnath itself. This was a serious accusation. The undead have no rights under the Code of Galifar and cannot inherit titles or lands. Thal's challenge spread like wildfire, only to be crushed when Caius III met the warlords under the midday sun and cut his palm to show his freely flowing blood. And this should have been the end of it, but the tale of the Vampire King has proven surprisingly resilient. Some say that the king developed special enchantments to avoid the effects of sunlight. Others says he relies on changeling impersonators to take his place in the daylight. As for Drago Thal, he refused to stand down when Caius III pushed for peace and the Treaty of Thronehold. He fled to the city of Stormreach in Zedric with a small band of followers, and he continues to rally support against, quote, the monster that sits on our throne. Karnathi characters. Karns are somber folk and disapprove of extravagance or excessive shows of emotion. If you develop a Karnathi character or NPC, consider the following. Military service, they have a strong tradition of military service, making soldier or sailor appropriate backgrounds for any characters. Martial tradition. Karnathi tradition emphasizes teamwork, focus, and force, and melee warriors prefer heavy armor and weapons. And the dead. Undead soldiers have served in Karnath's armies for decades. How do you feel about the undead? Are you a follower of the Blood of Vol? Do you have a relative or a friend currently serving? Or do you despise the Blood of Vol and use the use of necromancy? If any of these are true, please call our free 1-800 number. Okay, City of Sites. Cities and sites. Sturdy walls around Karnathi communities and even the smallest villages maintains a capable militia. A Tour, known as the City of Night. A Tour is the stronghold of the Blood of Vol in Karnath. During the war, this was the center for the production of dead, and massive catacombs below the city hold legions of undead soldiers in case they're needed again. Fort Bones. Fortresses such as this one dot the hilltops of Karnath, watching for signs of enemy encroachment, ever since the last war has ended. Fort Bones garrison consists primarily of Karnathi undead soldiers. No lights glow here, as they undead rely on dark vision to see. Carlicton, the turbulent Sire River separates the city from the deadly moorland. Carlicton is the birthplace of kings. Both Karn the Conqueror and Galifar the First were born here, and it is the center of power for House Derneath. The house's headquarters, Sentinel Tower, dominates the city's skyline. A stern edifice of angular stone, Sentinel Tower radiates martial authority and is one of the most heavily defended fortresses in Corvair. Surrounding the tower are trading grounds, barracks, and smithies to accommodate all of House Derneath's needs. Sentinel Tower serves as the headquarters of the famed Sentinel Marshals, although most of them are abroad. Korth, the capital city of Karnath, is a city fortress on the edge of Nightwood, and the seat of King Caius III. Its walls and towers bristle with the weapons of war, and military marches through the city help bolster the spirits of Karns as well as intimidate foreign diplomats. Yes, war, implements of war marching through the streets as a means to dissuade any form of rebellion or invasion. And the Nightwood. This massive forest has close ties to the plane of Mabar. Monsters sometimes slip out of the Nightwood to threaten the surrounding regions. Criminals and fugitives who flee to the Nightwood find the dangers within deadlier than any Karnath executioner. The aftermath of the last war. Karnath has always been a martial nature, and its people remain vigilant. Early in the war, King Caius instituted the Code of Caius, a strict set of laws and limits. Karnath weathered a number of famines during the war, and this privatization led to an ongoing program of rationing to ensure that the nation is prepared for whatever lies ahead. The war is over, but the Code of Caius and the rationing remains in place. The people of Karnath willingly endure ongoing hardship to ensure that their future is secure. The populace frowns on an excess of any sort, accepts limits on luxury items, and approves of swift and harsh punishments for crime. King Caius was one of the architects of the Treaty of Thronehold and remains committed to peace. However, many of the nation's warlords believe that Carnath should have won the last war, and that Caius denied the Carnathi people their rightful destiny. Should these warlords gain sufficient support, they could push for a military coup. A second destabilizing factor is the tension between the followers of the Blood of Vol and the Carnathi traditionalists. The Seekers assert that the Blood of Vol saved Carnath to the point to the power of its undead troops. The traditionalists claim that the dark magic of the Seekers caused famines and plagues, crippling Carnath and forcing it to rely on the undead. The Blood of Vol could bring back an uprising in Carnath, or those who wish to drive out the Seekers could trigger a civil war. A civil war that also partially includes undead people. See, that's a good hook right there. The Lazar Principalities. Capital is Regal Port. Hallmarks are fish mercenaries, merchants, pirates, and ships. The loose confederacy of pirate lords, merchant princes, and sea barons holds the northeastern coastline of Corvair and the many mist-shrouded islands scattered across it. Recognized as a single allied nation under the Treaty of Thronehold, the Principalities are more of a loose alliance. Each island domain has its own values, goals, and feuds with other domains. The Lazar are the finest sailors in Corvair. During the last war, they served all nations as privateers and engaged in piracy on the side. So now we've got the pirate environment. When the war ended, they returned to the merchant trade, but pirates still hunt on the open seas. The Lazar value their independence. Here anyone can rise to captain a ship, or even seize a principality. Leadership is earned, not given. Nevertheless, High Prince Ryger Alwinarn of Regalport seeks to forge the principalities to a unified force. He has the finest fleet, and his efforts ensure that the principalities gain recognition at Thronehold, after which he awarded himself the title of High Prince. So far, other princes have rejected his proposals for a stronger union. Some principalities are devoted to the Blood of Vol, and few favor the sovereign host. Beyond these, the Lazar show little enthusiasm for religion, though many curse to devour when a storm comes. Yar. How much does a pirate pay for corn? Buccaneer. What did the pirate say when he turned 80? He said, I'm 80. Interesting things about the Lazar Principalities. Rulership of the Principalities is so fluid that it is possible for someone to start the day as a sailor and end it as a prince. A campaign could easily be based around a party of adventurers gaining a principality. The Wind Whisperer Principality includes a number of high elves with the Mark of Storm, foundlings with no tie to House Lorander. The Wind Whisperers want to obtain airships by any means necessary. The Lazar Principalities have the largest changeling population in Corvair. Many of them still congregate in the Great Tide, a domain which was founded by changelings. To develop a Lazar character, consider the following: seafarers and swashbucklers. I think that's self-explanatory. Local custom: each principality has its own martial traditions, factions, and slang. And think about how your choices reflect your principality. And big dreams: whatever their circumstances, the people of principalities always look to the future. What do you want? To find a forgotten treasure hoard, to command your own ship, to take your place as a prince. Think big and chase your dreams. Cities and sites: Dreadhold. The island prison is said to be inescapable, maintained by House Kundarak. Dreadhold houses a host of infamous criminals and political prisoners. Its vault also holds some of the greatest treasures in House Kundarak. Port Verge, a royal port of the Dire Shark Principality. Prince Colbricon yearns to expand Verge and overshadow Regalport, and he is always looking for capable adventurers and allies. The Blood of Vol has a strong presence in Port Verge, and Colbricon recently allowed House Lorander to establish an enclave there. But Colbricon's thirst for glory may lead him to some foolish bargains. Regalport, the seat of the High Prince Rhaegar and the Sea Dragon Principality. Regalport is the grandest city in the Principalities. The Patriarch of House Thorani resides in Regalport, and House Galanda has a significant outpost here. I think I made a Freudian slip there. I think I was thinking Cutthroat, but I was reading Regalport, and it came out as Regal Throat. The Pirate Exchange is the largest market east of the Iron Root Mountains. Trebaz Sinara. It is said that the legendary pirate queen Lazar made her home on Trebaz Sinara, and this island holds the treasures and tombs of generations of sea lords. However, the island hasn't been seen in over 500 years. Many Lazar sailors have devoted their lives to finding the Lost Isle. The aftermath of the Last War. During the Last War, Lazar served as privateers and pirates. Outsiders wonder if the principalities can adapt to peace or if their thirst for gold and adventure will lead their subjects to ruin. Most of the princes are confident with their domains, but ambitious rulers such as Prince Rhaegar of Regalport and Prince Culbercon of Port Verde could shatter the status quo. Culbercon seeks to expand his personal power, while Rhaegar wants to form a stronger, unified nation. Both pursue dangerous alliances in their campaigns. In addition to agreements with the Dragonmark houses, rumors abound of bargains with dragons, fiends, and the distant Empire of Rhaegar. Will the dreams of these princes lead to a new war? The Moorholes. The capital is Krona Peak. The hallmarks are banking, dwarves, metalwork, and mining. Well, this is the dwarf civilization. When humanity first came to Corvair, they found the dwarven clans of the Moorholes locked in endless feuds. This division kept the clans from uniting against the new arrivals, and the dwarves were forced to swear fealty to Karnath and Galifar. Over the centuries, they've turned their energies to harnessing the astonishing natural resources of their mountain homes, and the dwarves were reborn as merchant lords. In the early days of the Last War, more miners made an astonishing discovery. The ruins of an ancient dwarven empire, vast hills deep within the Ironroot Mountains. Explorers uncovered mines still brimming with jewels and precious ores, and vaults filled with riches and powerful artifacts. The Moor restored these ancient fortresses and worked to reclaim the secrets of their ancestors. Seeing the untapped potential of the realm below and the broken kingdom of Galifar, the clan lords joined together to form the Iron Council to declare the independence and sovereignty of the Moorholes. One question remained: what had become of the ancient dwarves? The answer soon became apparent. As the Moor delved deeper into the realm below, they awoke an ancient evil. Durn the Corruptor, a Delkir Lord of Madness. Okay, so once again we have the affirmation that Delkir are infernal. Many dwarves revile anything to do with the Delkir. Others believe that the Delkir can grant the Moor dwarves the power to overcome any enemy. Some clans have taken up symbionts and living weapons recovered from the depths and cabals of the warlocks drew on the power plane of Zoriat. So the Moorholes consists of a loose confederation, 12 clans, each govern a hold and have a representative of the Iron Council, which resolves disputes and issues affecting the entire nation. Each hold includes a number of lesser clans who owe fealty to the noble line. Those who occupy land have the right to claim the halls that lie below if they can. The sovereign host is the dominant faith of the Moorholes. Kol Koran is the most beloved of the sovereigns, but the dwarves also revere Boldre, Doldorn, Olandra, and Onatar. Interesting things about the Moorholes: they contain deep reserves of gold, silver, and other rare precious metals, along with iron and other ores. More dwarves are skilled miners and artisans. A clan of orgs called the Jorishtar live among the Ironroot Mountains. The Jorishtar have been slowly clouded into the least hospitable regions of the mountains. A few dwarven clans seek to incorporate Jorishtar into more society, but others wish to drive them out once and for all. More Ian society. The dwarves have recovered artifacts and arcane secrets from the realm below. Dwarf artificers are still working to master the techniques of their ancestors, while the warlocks strive to harness the powers of the Delkir. The Mines of Moria. Moria. It rolls right off the tongue. A Moor lord might serve guests from a bottomless cauldron of wine, while another studies strangers using a crown of eyes, claiming that this living artifact reveals all evil intent. As you develop a Moor character or NPC, consider the following. Clan focus. The dwarf clan is the heart of Moor culture. Is your clan for mercantile power or martial skills? Are you a noble? Are you a guild artisan or soldier? Most Moor have embraced modern martial techniques, but a few minor clans still cling to the barbarian traditions of the past. What caused you to leave your hold? Are you serving your clan and honing your skills, or have you been exiled from your homeland? The Realm Below. How has the Realm Below affected your family and your character? Do you oppose the foul forces that infest your ancestral halls, or do you see them as a source of power? You might be a paladin sworn to oppose the horrors that dwell in the deep, or you could be a warlock who has forged a path with the Great Old one of the dark powers in the depths. And pride in possessions, from the wealthiest clan lord to the humblest miner. More take great pride in their possessions. Quality is more important than appearance, and if you are interested in the history of the items you carry. If you find a magic weapon, you want to know what battles it has seen and what the warriors that have wielded it below you. Is this especially true of the relics recovered from the realm below? Who forged the blade you carry? You bear a trinket from a forgotten age. Cities and sites. The Moor holds spread across the Ironroot Mountains. Most Moor communities are at least partially subterranean, extending down into the mountains. The realm below is deep beneath the surface, and not every town has a passage. Corona Peak, located in the dwarven realm of Moranonhold. Corona Peaks serve as the seat of the Iron Council, and thus is the Moorhold's equivalent of the capital. The center of commerce provides a major connection to the Western nations. Volcaran's throne, Corvair's largest temple to the sovereign lord of world and wealth, dominates the cityscape. Solon Gap, the holdfast of Clan Sidaric. Solon Gap boasts vast gold mines and the largest mint and treasury in Corvair. Clan Solarac has recovered many Delkir tools and weapons from the realm below. Solon lords probably wear symbionts that make no effort to hide their packs to warlocks. Noldrun Hold. 400 years ago, the dwarves of Clan Noldrun banished all expectations that delved into the Noldrun Hold, ended in disaster, and that religion was declared to be cursed and shunned. At the time, the dwarves believed that the Jorashtar orcs were responsible, but now it seems more likely that the Noldrun opened a path to the realm below. What malevolent powers have claimed the halls of Noldrun Hold and the realm below? No one knows the extent or the depth of the ancient dwarven empire deep beneath the Ironroot Mountains. Great wealth and arcane secrets remain hidden in these halls, along with endless hordes of aberrations. As a Moor adventurer, you should help your family reclaim lands from the realm below, or you can lead your allies deep in search of wealth and glory. From the voice of Karnath, Moorhold's birthplace of an abomination. It has been exactly 70 years since the Iron Council declared the Moorhold's independence from Karnath. King Caius II was newly seated on the steel throne and lacked the resolve to bring the dwarf lords to heel. Now we see the harvest we have sown, and it is horrifying. Without the firm hand of Karnath to keep them on the righteous path, the Moor dwarves have embraced foul powers. Witness Lord of Malice Soldarak, seen in Korth this week for trade negotiations. His breastplate was formed from chitin and muscle, and it seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. A guard present at the event said Soldarak's axe moaned when the blade came close to him, as if the weapon hungered for human blood. This is what springs from our mercy and forbearance. Who knows what horrors the dwarves are crafting or breeding in their mountain halls? We cannot stand by and let this violence continue. For the good of our nation, we call on all true Karns to demand that Regent Morana unleash our full might on the Moorholds and cleanse this horror. In the aftermath of the last war, the Moorholds declared independence during the last war. Many nations depend on the resource of the holds and the Treaty of Thronehold affirmed its sovereignty. To the casual observer, The more dwarves' star appears to be rising, their mines seem to offer limitless resources. More artificers make amazing strides as they study the relics of their ancestors. The dwarves are proud of their ancient past and optimistic about their futures. Most more are generous and courageous, eager to show off their wealth and their accomplishments. Those who dig deeper realize that this prosperity is built on an unstable foundation. The last war may be over, but the war against the Delkier has barely begun. The clan lords hold their reclaimed halls in the realm below, but no one knows the full extent of the power of the Dalkier. A renewed assault could come at any time, whether it's force of monsters boiling up from below, or a creeping madness that affects the weak-willed. The dwarves are also divided by their attitude towards aberrations. Some of the clan, notably Soldarak, embrace symbiotes and other Dalkier gifts. Some even experiment with flesh-warping techniques and create their own monsters. Others, notably Clan Moranon, avoid contact with the aberration. Such dwarves treasure the relics of their ancestors, but despise those who use symbols or form pacts with the darkness. Long ago, the dwarves engaged in vicious feuds that keep them from uniting as a nation. A new divide could reignite these rivalries, leading to a civil war on the surface, even as evil gains strength in the depths. That makes me think of Dracula's armor from the 1992 movie. He has that weird muscle-looking armor. I've never seen that movie. I have it on DVD. I don't even think I've taken it out of the shrink wrap. Kibara, the capital is Newthorn. So this is really interesting, is that this is a nation that starts with the letter Q, but we still have 6 more nations after this one. Because the 3 of them start with the letter T. Kibara is a young nation on the edge of Corvair, an untamed frontier and filled with danger and opportunity. During the golden age of Galifar, few humans bothered to cross the Endworld Mountains to explore the vast jungle beyond. When the last war broke out, a fleet of settlers came to Kibara in search of a new home far from the war. As the settlement expanded, the settlers discovered massive deposits of Eberron dragon shards. Over the past decade, a wave of prospectors, wandslingers, refugees, and fortune seekers have descended on Kibara, along with brigands, deserters from the war, and all manner of criminals and opportunists. To their surprise, Kibara was already home to a number of ancient civilizations humans know nothing about. The lizard folk of the Cold Sun, the dragonborn of the Karshan, and the confederacy of the Poison Dusk lizard folk. Most settlers refer to them collectively as scales. Oh, great. Well, King Sebastus Rakan of Newthorn has established a treaty with the Cold Sun Federation, but communication has been difficult and prospectors rarely abide by the terms of the treaty. And so I've personally been guilty of this one, and so this is probably why this is mortifying to me. But, I think I actually played it the other way around, though, is that the region that I was role-playing in was mostly dominated by either humans or lizard folk. And as the human was the lizard folk that actually had the ethnic slur for the humans. But now I'm really not too keen on providing that element in any future role-playing game. So I'm just going to forget I even discussed that. We're learning and we're growing. Interesting things about Kibara. Kibara is one of the richest sources of Eberron dragon shards in Corvair, drawing waves of settlers and prospectors to this young and growing nation on the edge of civilization. Certain ruins in Kibara appear connected to the Age of Demons. The settlers know little history of this region, but the Poison Dusk lizard folk have ties to fiendish powers. House Thrashk has a strong presence in Kibara. Thrashk is the primary buyer of Eberron dragon shards and also runs large-scale mining operations here. Kibaran characters, settlers. This is an excellent place to explore the traditional archetypes of the classic Western. As a paladin, you could be a lone sheriff. Your cleric could be the town preacher. As a sorcerer or bard with a criminal background, you could be a dashing wandslinger looking for trouble and gold. I mean, The very epitome of a Western Dungeons and Dragons crossover. Renegades and Regrets. Kabara promises a land of opportunities, a place you can leave your past behind. Are you a deserter? Or are you convicted of a crime you did not commit? Are you fleeing from a broken heart? Kabara has also drawn Syrian refugees and newly freed warforged that are seeking a home in the Wild East. I committed all the crime. I'll take that as a confession. Lizard folk. The lizard folk's primitive culture blends druidic traditions with the beliefs of the Silver Flame. You might have been sent to study the softskins, to learn about them and potentially serve as an envoy for your people. Alternatively, you could be following a spiritual vision. And then Dragonborn. The Dragonborn live amidst the remnants of ancient glory. They have a proud martial tradition and number Dragonborn venture west in search of worthy challenges. If you follow this path, you might have served as a mercenary in the last war. Cities and sites: Hakatorvak, Hakatorvak. It's like that. Hakatorvak. It's split. It's split with an accent. Hakatorvak. It's hard to say. Is even when you do know how to pronounce it. Hakatorvak. Explorers tell stories of a city hidden deep in the jungles of Kabara, a wondrous citadel of obsidian and brass. According to these tales, the city is filled with treasure and guarded by dragons, fused with an ancient demon. It sounds like El Dorado. They really, really want to push the Western backgrounding in that, and so, hopefully, when people roleplay this, they're not going to go all in on the stereotypes and the existing fictional Western mishmash that we have in regards to of old Hollywood and etc. etc. But I digress, and I digress. The New Throne, the capital of New Galifar and the seat of King Sebastes. New Throne is the largest city in Port Kibara. Myriad people from all over Corvair mingle here in crowded streets. Soldiers pay little heed to the rampant crime in these streets, viewing it instead as a part of life in the port city. I think those descriptions would heavily benefit from little blurbs about architecture, if not outright pictures of the locales. This could have used a few more pictures. I mean, they're practically, asking people to go back and then seek the original books that all of this is written about because, regrettably, a good amount of 5e is really just a restatement. It's an opportunity for a corporate entity, Wizards of the Coast, a subsidiary of Hasbro, to take Dungeons and Dragons lore as they own it and then reshape it into something that could still serve as a product. But you can't help but feel that there's something missing when you're reading these descriptions because the descriptions used to be a lot more broad. It deserves so much more. It's ripe for illustration, and in addition to that, there's the simple fact that what's in this book is probably abridged from 4 or 5 individual game books, each one of them describing a different scenario. For all we know, something like Kubara, the Moor Holds, and the Lazar Principalities were all its own campaign at some point. Just its own standalone campaign where they applied the Western or the Dwarven or the Haunted or the Sailor elements to an individual game book. Exactly. Okay, I'm glad that you're following this, Devin. Okay, the Shadow Marches. Capital, unofficially, is Zarashk. The hallmarks are the Eberron, dragon shards, and the herbs. When most people think of the Shadow Marches, they imagine a fetid backwater where illiterate humans mingle with orcs and other foul creatures, practicing strange lights by the light of the moons. While flawed, this vision isn't entirely inaccurate. The Shadow Marshes are a desolate land of swamps and moors, the homeland of the orcs. The marshes were scarred in an ancient conflict with the Dalkier. The fiends left twisted creatures and aberrations in swamps, and sowed seeds of madness that still linger to this day. They are indeed moonlit rituals in the marches, some to honor the Dalkier, others to maintain the wards that kept them trapped in Kyber. The marches had little contact with the Kingdom of Galifar or the East until a few hundred years ago, when a House Civis expedition made two discoveries. One, that the region contained valuable dragon shards, and a number of clans have manifested the dragon mark of finding. This led to the foundation of House Thrashk, as these clans joined together to master the economic potential of the mark and leverage their mineral wealth. Oops. I think that says a little bit more about Thrashk than it does about the Shadow Marches. The Shadow Marches aren't a nation. No one voice speaks for the clans and the tribes, and most of the tribes have no interest in dealing with outsiders. House Thrashk is the largest faction in the region, and the city of Zrashk is the center of commerce. Interesting things about the Shadow Marches. The untamed Shadow Marches are filled with mysteries. Relics of the Dalkier rest undisturbed in the depths of the swamps, along with foul monsters and druidic shrines. The marches are the birthplace of the druidic tradition of the Gatekeepers. Long ago, the sect defeated the vile Dalkier. Today, its last champions continue to protect Eberron from aberrations and other extraplanar threats. Even in defeat, the Dalkier sowed seeds of madness in the marches. Followers of the cults of the dragon below remain scattered across the region. Some of these cults work with mind flayers and other aberrations. Others have no evil intent but are driven by dangerous delusions. Marcher characters possess the Mark of Finding. An alliance of Marcher clans formed House Thrashk, but not all those who carry the mark chose to join this house. As a half-orc with the Mark of Finding, you could be a child of the Marches with a strong tie to the house, or you could be a scion of a small tribe of hunters, proud of your independence and suspicious of the houses. Madness and mysticism. Most Marchers have a mystical view of the world, beliefs shaped by the traditions of the Gatekeepers and the madness of the Dalkier. Marchers typically feel that the people of the Treaty Nations are blinded by their civilized ways. You have heard the truth in the voices of the croaking frogs and seen it in the shadows shifting in the water. Whether you're loyal to the Gatekeepers, the sovereign hosts, or the dragon below, superstitions inform your path. Is this a clan or is this a tribe? The people of Shadow Marches are split into two different distinct cultures. The clans blend the traditions of human and orc, building towns and working with steel. If you're raised in one of the clans by ways of civilization aren't that strange to you. You've seen the city of Zarashak and worked with House Thrashk. By contrast, the Marcher tribes can maintain traditions that predate humanity. As nomadic hunter-gatherers, they don't work metals. They make their tools from stone, hide, wood, and bone. If your character is from one of the Marcher tribes, you might be the first of your people to leave the swamps. Why have you left your people, and how are you adapting to this new world? Cities and sites. The Dragon Shard Fields. The Shadow Marches hold deposits of Eberron Dragon Shards, the source of House Thrash's wealth. These fields aren't as rich as those in Kubara, but there's gold to be made by those willing to hunt for the shards in dangerous swamps. Vorak's Cave. The Green Dragon Vorak is said to have taught the secrets of druidic magic to the first gatekeepers thousands of years ago. Though Vorak is long dead, rumors say that their hidden lair holds secrets tied to the draconic prophecy and the mysteries of druidic magic. And Zarashak, because overland travel through Drome or the Elden Reaches can be extremely dangerous. Most people who need to do business in the marches travel by ship or to the port city of Zarashak. Built on stilts and known for its cuisine and music, Zarashak offers the rare exports of the land without the difficulty of navigating the swamps. House Thrashk oversees the city of Stilts, but Marcher clans and tribes come here to sell crafts and other goods or to celebrate religious rituals. Aftermath of the last war. The Shadow Marches aren't a nation, and the region wasn't recognized by the Treaty of Thronehold. Most Marchers have little interest in the outside world. Marcher tribes don't know the names or the numbers of the nations below the swamps, let alone that they were at war. However, as House Thrash gains power and influence in land beyond the swamps, it has increased its presence in the homeland. The house has expanded Zarashk dramatically over the last decade and is working on transforming other towns in the city. This has caused tension with a number of tribes, and House Thrash mining operations and its urban expansion always run the risk of disrupting gatekeeper seals and unleashing ancient evils beneath the marches. Okay. The Talenta Plains, capital is Gatherhold. Hallmarks are dinosaurs, halflings, and livestock. Once again, this is, the single biome nation that was probably one of its own standalone books. The halflings of the Talenta Plains have no cities and no industrialized magic, but they do have dinosaurs. OS Devon says, what will become of the orcs? Should they be united under a single banner? Well, possibly. But that's entirely up to you. That's up to you and your campaign. And at any rate, people are going to do it because they want something that's really, really close to World of Warcraft. The halflings domesticated the dinosaurs of the plains and used these creatures as mounts, livestock, and beasts of burdens. A sacred bond exists between a hunter and a mount, and few people are prepared to face a raging halfling barbarian, riding a furious clawfoot raptor. Talenta religion reveres spirits, both departed ancestors and natural spirits. Each tribe has a lath, a chieftain who guides their tribe, and shamans who consult the spirits and choose the paths of migration. In the past, the tribe stood alone, but the last war, many halflings came together under Latham Halpum to defend their land. Halpum won recognition from the plains as one of the Thronehold nations, though it's still unclear what this means beyond increasing passage between the plains and the outside world. House Galanda and House Jarasco both originated in the Talenta Plains. The dragon-marked bloodlines appear throughout the tribes, although you can play a dragon-marked halfling from the plains who doesn't work for the horses. The Talentan reverence for spirits derived from the fact that a variety of spirits haunt the plains. This region contains an unusual number of manifest zones tied to Delore and Thalanis. Ghosts are more likely to linger in these places, and minor fae are scattered across the plains. Stories tell of ancient ruins that date back to the first age of the world, and a vast graveyard holding the bones of dragons. Talentan characters are wild warriors and tricksters. You are born in the wild, and your wits and your weapons helped you survive. Talenta warriors are often barbarians or rangers, relying on speed and skill. Outlander is a logical background, but you could easily be a folk hero, an entertainer, or a charlatan. Surrounded by spirits, fae, fiends, and the ghosts of ancestors, these are all part of the spirits world, and they're all around you. Do you believe that the spirits guide your action? Do you show respect to the spirits of a location? Talentan shamans tend to be druids of the Circle of Moon or the Circle of the Shepherd, which is found in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Often assuming the form of dinosaurs, you could also reflect a strong bond to spirits by playing a warlock with an archfey patron, a cleric with a nature domain, a paladin sworn to the Oath of the Ancients, a barbarian of the Path of the Totem Warrior, or the Path of the Ancestral Guardian, also from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Hermits and outlanders are natural backgrounds, but you can be an acolyte or a sage who consults spirits instead of books. Warriors and shamans both wear masks to present a particular face to the spirit world. Dinosaurs. Talenta halflings have a close bond to dinosaur companions. If you don't begin the campaign with a dinosaur mount, you might acquire one over the course of your adventures. You can also consider whether a fallen dinosaur is part of your backstory. Perhaps you lost your faithful mount in the last war, but you believe that its spirit is still with you. Let's see. Cities and sites. Gatherhold. All the halfling tribes come to Gatherhold to trade, hold councils, and settle disputes. House Galanda maintains the town, but Gatherhold belongs to the people, not the houses. Other dragon-marked houses of their services have their services here as well. The town is off the shore of Lake Sire, and once people came by boat through Sire. Now the morning has cut off that passage. And the Wandering Inn, the caravan maintained by members of House Galanda, is a traveling fair providing entertainment and shelter to everyone fortunate to cross its path. When times are dark and travelers are weary, you can always hope that the Wandering Inn is just beyond the horizon. The aftermath of the last war, the halfling tribes joined together to defend themselves from outsiders, and the Talenta Plains were recognized as a nation under the Treaty of Thronehold. Now that the war is over, Most of the tribes have returned to their hunting grounds and their ancient traditions. They have united to defend their way of life, and now they wish to enjoy it. But the halflings don't yet know if it's possible to return to the previous ways. More foreigners visit the plains than at any time in the past. Settlers and merchants cross the plains as they make their way to Kibara, and they clash with Kibaran bandits. Uh, the Valinar elves ride through the plains in search of their adventure. Monsters emerge from the moorland. Dragonmark houses seek to expand their role at the Gatherhold to explore the untapped resources of the plains. The halflings have no interest in change, but it might be inevitable. Lathan Halpom believes that the tribes can work together. They could become a nation of nations, but others aggressively oppose such a path. Holy Odra is a powerful shaman and the leader of her own tribe. She urges halfling warriors to join together for a single purpose: to drive all outsiders from the plains and to maintain the ancient traditions. The halflings must decide whether they will choose the path of peace or return to war. So we have two very distinct shamanistic nature. Um, the ones that live in Thrain and the ones that live in the Talenta Plains. And, possibly if you want to count the lizard folk in Kubaro, that might actually even be another one. Well, they offer the variety, for you to make your own character in any way possible. You can use any of these backgrounds. You can use combinations of these backgrounds. Anything goes. Let's see. So actually, okay, no, that was a description of the Talenta Plains. This is the description of Thrain. So let me just make that clarification. The capital of Thrain is Flamekeep. Its hallmarks are divine magic, fine crafts, fruit, livestock, the silver flame, textiles, and wool. This is more than likely the area where most of the wizards spring from. The modern Church of the Silver Flame was founded in Thrain, and most of the people of the nation follow this faith. During the last war, the people of Thrain chose to set aside the rule of the monarchy and to embrace the leadership of the church. For the last 70 years, Thrain has been a theocracy. The head of the state is an 11-year-old Jayla Duran, the divinely selected keeper of the flame. This actually might be good for clerics as well. Jayla depends on the Council of Cardinals to perform the practical work of running the nation. The primary purpose of the Silver Flame is to defend the innocent from a supernatural evil. The church has always had a militant aspect with battalions of Templars and peasant militias prepared to face the undead, the lycanthropes, or other monstrous threats, but compassion and charity are the core value of the church. And the Templars were tasked to defend all innocents. This is starting to sound like Crusades. Oh my god. Even during the last war, if a fiendish threat arose in a Brelish village, Thrain Templars would ally with the locals to bring an end to the threat. Not all Thrains rise to this ideal. Zealous Thrains believe that the church is destined to reunite Galifar under the Silver Flame, and corrupt priests are interested only in power and wealth. Not all priests are clerics, and the typical Templar is a mundane warrior. However, due to the deep faith of its people, Thrain produces more clerics and paladins than any other nation. Oh, well. I stand thoroughly corrected. The Sharn Inquisitive. I was scorched by the Silver Flame. Growing up on the streets of the Caliston district in Sharn, I learned not to put my faith in anything I couldn't see or hold. That is why my editor sent me to Flamekeep to cover the Ascension. Surely I'd see clearly with eyes untouched by faith. I thought so too, but when I found myself in the chamber of Tira's sacrifice, a pillar of silver fire marking the spot where one woman gave her life to protect countless innocents, I saw people from all nations join together in song, celebrating both that ancient sacrifice and the end of our current war. And looking into the innocent eyes of the child priestess, I truly heard the words of that song for the first time. A call for all of us to be better than we are, to protect those in need, and to remember that we are all one people in the light of the Silver Flame. Oh, wow. I think that means that the author of that article was converted. Although it could just as easily be that, he appreciates the morality and the message behind it. Interesting things about Thrain. Faith is part of daily life, and divine adepts provide important services. Magic is also common. Ever-bright lanterns light the streets while mage rites and wizards practice their trade, although there are fewer of them than in other nations. Every town has a militia ready to deal with supernatural threats, and people stand together to fight darkness. Champions of the light find support in hospitality, but any character who dabbles in dark forces finds Thrain a dangerous and unwelcoming place. The feudal system of nobility remains in place, but ultimate authority rests in the hands of the church. Queen Diani Elwarnarn is the Blood Regent, serving as a symbolic advisor to the Keeper of the Flame. A small fraction of the population would like to see the traditional monarchy restored to power. Thrain characters have the impact of faith. If you want to reflect a close bond to the Silver Flame, you can gain a few divine spells by taking the Magic Initiate feat. Archery is also a devotional practice of the Silver Flame, so as a martial Thrain, you might focus on archery or take a sharpshooter feat. Any Thrain could take the Acolyte background to reflect a strong connection to the church, or a soldier background based on service with the Templar. Are you for the church or the crown? Do you support this? Oh, I accidentally auto-scrolled up a little bit. Do you church or crown? Do you support the theocracy, or would you like to see power restored to the throne? Many people of faith believe that marrying the church in politics distracts it and invites corruption. Dealing with darkness. The shadow in the flame can tempt even the most virtuous soul. How do you react when you encounter corruption and greed? Are you a compassionate person or a zealot determined to crush all darkness? Yeah, call me a softie. Cities and states and sites. Flamekeep, the spiritual heart and capital of Thrain. Flamekeep is a massive fortress cry. Keeper of the Flame dwells in the great cathedral of the Silver Flame, which holds a pillar of fire, born when Tira Miron sacrificed herself to bind the demon Bel Shalor. The cathedral is the seat of the Council of Cardinals and the primary garrison of the Templar Order. Flamekeep is also home to Thalangran, the ancestral place of the rulers of Thrain and current residence of Queen Diani Elwarnarn. Shadakar is a grim reminder of the coast of the war, once known as the Jewel of the Side. The coastal city was destroyed in a bitter siege against the Karnathi forces. The city has yet to be reclaimed and is said to be haunted by both Thrain ghosts and undead forces left behind by the Karns. And Thalios, the ancient Andarian city seized during the last war. Thalios was ceded to Thrain under the Treaty of Thronehold. Many of its people bitterly opposed the Thrain occupation, but it's also become a haven for Andarian followers of the extremist Pure Flame sect. Violence often breaks out between these two factions. In the aftermath of the last war, the war is over, but deep rifts remain between Thrain and its neighbors. Andarian war magic created a blasted wasteland between the two nations. To the east, the conflict with Karnath left farms and cities such as Sandakar devastated and abandoned, home only to the lingering undead left behind by the Karnathi retreat. For most, these grim reminders of war strengthen Thrain resolve. The common people are united by their faith, and sure of the righteousness of their cause. The Silver Flame urges people to stand together in the face of evil, and across the nation, villagers work together to repair the damage inflicted during the war. People in the Thrain village regularly cooperate to raise a barn or practice archery in the fields. The Silver Flame urges its followers to feel compassion for all people, which often proves a more difficult challenge. Thrain has never forgiven Karnath for its use of undead soldiers, and many Thrains are quick to imagine all Karns as agents of darkness. Likewise, Thrains have bitter memories of the conflict with Ander and Andarian wizards or Eldritch Knights, who tend to receive a cold reception. For most Thrains, the war strengthened their faith and drew them together. However, some question the validity of theocratic rule. Such doubt can be found even amongst the most devout followers of faith. Such people fear that the merging of the temporal and spiritual authority distracts from the church from its proper mission. If those doubts spread, a serious faction might seek to restore Queen Denali to power. Thalos is another open world. Thalos is another open wound. The Council of Cardinals is determined to hold on to its prize, but is a bitter point of contention with Ander, and a constant source of tension and violence. In creating a Thrain character, consider how do you feel about Thalos, and would you like to see it return to Ander, or to support Thrain's rule? So we're exactly at 9 o'clock right now, but we only have 3 more nations to go. So, just out of interest in completing this section of the book, I'm going to continue until I read the last three uh, nations. So, notify the affiliates. We're going into overtime. Thronehold, capital is Port. The hallmarks are entertainers, international intrigue, and spies. After forging a united kingdom, Galifar first realized early on that the crown could not rule for one of the existing realms. So to do so would be to put one of the five nations above the others, and that would lead to breaks and fractures that would eventually destroy the kingdom. Thus, he established his seat of power on an island in Cyan Sound. There, he built the great castle of Thronehold. After Jarrah's death and the rejection of the line of succession that led to the Last War, the island and the castle were largely abandoned. A special detachment of House Deneth guards, the Throne Warriors, remained in place to protect the castle, but all government functions ceased with the collapse of the Kingdom of Galifar. Throneport, a town in the shadow of the castle, became a place for dissidents, criminals, spies, and mercenaries, and the once safe port turned into a rough and tumble town without allegiance to any single nation. Interesting things about Thronehold: representatives of the five nations gather in the town, where it's impossible to tell friend from foe, and alliances shift daily. Although Sire no longer has a peacekeeping force on the island, many Syrians find work here as spies and agents to other nations. So this does sound an awful lot like a rogue nation, which I think we also said about the realm of Brayland. And but this is a little different because they're talking specifically about espionage and all the espionage that is conducted between the five nations. Thronehold characters: some are cold warriors. It's a gladiatorial arena for diplomats and spies, a dangerous playground for bourgeois, and a haven for treacherous double agents. Characters with charlatan, spy, normal, or criminal background might all test their skills here. And play it again. If diplomats and spies have one thing in common, it's a weakness for pleasant distractions. When not playing their games of deceit, they seek out the best entertainment and companionship the island has to offer. Characters with the entertainment background can make many untrustworthy friends here. In the aftermath of the Last War, by 975, Throneport had grown into a small city in which all of the nations and dragon-marked houses had at least a small presence, turning it into a hotbed of international intrigue. The Treaty of Thronehold further solidified Throneport as a multinational capital under the control of small peacekeeping forces from Onder, Brayland, Carneth, and Thrain, with House Deneth throne wardens in place to make sure the terms of the treaty are honored. Today, the small city is neutral ground, but the castle and its grounds remain off limits and under the watchful protection of the warden. Valenar, the capital is Ter Valestas. Hallmarks are elves, horses, and mercenaries. In the midst of the Last War, an army of eternal warrior elves from Arundel seized this region from Sire, invoking a claim to the land from long before humanity's arrival on the continent. The eyes of Valenar devote themselves to the arts of war. Their cavalry has no equal in Corvair, and they combine a talent for magic with stealth and swordplay. Sire employed the Valenar as mercenaries until the elves betrayed Sire and took a corner of the nation for themselves. These lands escaped destruction, visited upon by the rest of Sire. After the morning, nobody wanted to challenge the Valenar's claim to the land they had taken. In the interest of peace, the Treaty of Thronehold recognized the new elf kingdom of Valenar. Valenar elves spend very little time at rest, operating in small units called warbands. Those who aren't patrolling the kingdom travel abroad seeking adventure. Half-elves handle the civic administration. Some of these are the children of Valenar elves, but most are immigrants who've come from elsewhere in Corvair in search of opportunity. Siren humanoids still occupy the region, fall below them in rank. Once citizens of Sire, they're citizens of Valenar. Little has changed for the commoners, most of whom don't even care who wears a crown. The harsh sands of the Blade Desert cover northern Valenar and serve as a natural barrier between this and the rest of Corvair. Beyond the desert, Valenar transitions from rolling steppes to fertile plains. The desert can be deadly, but the Valenar elves pose the greatest risk for adventurers. The elves won't interfere with peaceful caravans, but a well-armed group of travelers invites challenges. Interesting thing about Velenar. The dragon-marked House Lorander helped the Velenar elves build the infrastructure of their kingdom. The half-elves have no homeland, but House Lorander hopes to make Velenar a haven for its people. The ancestors of the elves fought goblins for control of this region many thousands of years ago. Relics of that struggle are still scattered across Velenar and the Blade Desert. Ruins, haunted fortresses, and battlefields have slipped out of alignment with time. Velenar war bands include druids and rangers, and druidic magic bolsters the military arsenal of the elves. Walls of thorns surround elven fortresses, and beasts fight alongside the elves. Velenar horses are known for being as fearless and stubborn as the elves who ride them. What did they used to call those? Limpisator horses? Possibly. Limpisator horses were horses that were known to travel across the plains in World War II. And so they were horses that were trained not to fear the sound of very loud explosions and just continue to move forward. Velenar characters have a martial role. Velenar was forged in war as an elf. Consider your role in a war band. Are you a simple soldier, an acolyte devoted to the elven ancestors, or a sage familiar with your Velenar history? As a half-elf, you might be an entertainer, a sailor, or a guild artisan. As a human, you could be an urchin born in Terra Valestis, or a folk hero fighting for the common people. Dreams. Have you left Velenar behind, or are your aspirations tied to the new kingdom? As a half-elf with Velenar blood, you want to be recognized as a true Velenar, granted to bond to a person, ancestor, and a chance at immortality. Or are you more interested in building a homeland for your people? Oh gosh, I didn't know that they still used horses like that so late. Yeah, and so, well, we're gonna stick a pin in that one. I think I want to take the moment in order to actually look up the history to that in a future episode. Because, I think I had two stories mixed up. I think that there were horses that still ran in World War II, but I don't think that they were the Limpisators, so I need to double check that. Animal companions. Fey-touched beasts play an important role in Velenar society. The Velenar are known for their steeds, but a wide range of Velenar beasts bond with non-elves. As a starting character, you might not have established a connection to a Velenar beast. If you return to Velenar later, perhaps you'll find your bond mate. Cities and sights. Moonshadow, a peaceful Corvair village built on the old road. Moonshadow is a young community built by immigrants who hope that Velenar can become a home for their people. Though small, Moonshadow has drawn half-elves from across Corvair, and a surprising number of gifted scholars and artisans thrive in the village. Plias Maradal, the second largest city in Velenar. Plias Maradal is a port on the southern coast. House Lysander has invested in the city and built shipyards and a large house enclave. The port sees traffic from Kabara, Sarlona, and Arienal. The region was part of Sire. The city was known as Southport, a haven for smugglers and pirates. And Tar Valestis. High King Sharas Vidalia maintains his seat in Tar Valestis. Located in the center of the kingdom, the city is built for war and surrounded by a living wall of bronzewood thorns. In addition to the royal palace, outposts of most dragon-marked houses, and a market where foreigners sell their wares. Terra Valestis holds the primary example of the Keepers of the Past, and a vast arena used for horse training, races, and other displays of equestrian skill. In the aftermath of the last war, there's a popular saying in Terra Valestis: the shadow of war hangs long over Velenar. War defines Velenar culture. The Treaty of Thronehold recognized Velenar as a sovereign nation, but the elves are already pushing the limits of the treaty. Some venture into the Moorland or the untamed jungles of Kabara, and Velenar warbrands have launched raids into Dargon and Karnath. Because of this, the nation remains on a war footing. Villages find it challenging to produce the supplies required to maintain the elf army. Still, the Velenar are rarely cruel overlords. As long as a village can meet its quotas, the elves leave it alone, though villages that fall below expectations are likely to receive assistance from druidic advisors than punishment. Okay, Zilargo. So this is the final entry. Zilargo, the capital is Trollenport. The hallmarks are alchemy, education, elemental binding, entertainment, gnomes, and precious stones. At first glance, the homeland of the gnomes seems to be a paradise. City streets are bright and clean, but universities and libraries are the finest in Corvair, and everyone seems happy and helpful. And crime is all but unheard of. But society teems with layers of intrigue and blackmail invisible to human eyes. The Trust, a ruthless secret police force, eliminates any threat to society. Zilargo isn't a tyranny. Each city has a democratically elected ruling council and a seat on the triumvirate that governs the nation. The Trust reports to the triumvirate. The Zil gnomes built this system and they're quite happy with it. With their streets are safe as long as you play by the rules of the game. The Trust ignores you. Outsiders find the casual acceptance of preemptive assassination to be terrifying. But the Zil generally trust the Trust. Zil gnomes live within a web of intrigues. The Trust condones their actions as long as they break no laws and don't threaten the state or the status quo. A gnome charlatan can connive to steal a jewel mine from another gnome, so long as the charlatan accomplishes the deed through cunning, negotiation, or deception, rather than violence or outright theft, and as long as the mine stays in Zil hands. The same applies to adventurers planning schemes in Zilargo. Violence draws attention and deadly consequences from the Trust, but intrigue is perfectly acceptable. So this is a really interesting roleplay environment because you virtually expect intervention from the police if you do anything violent in the town. So murder hobo tactics won't work here. Anything involving, just the rank violence of a character like a barbarian would ultimately lead to that character being eliminated. Let's see. The Trust is a network of spies and assassins. Most agents of the Trust simply pass information through dead drops. Some estimate that a third of the nation works for the Trust in this capacity. When the Trust identifies a threat, it acts preemptively. Trust agents prefer to solve a problem without violence by sharing a piece of information or a whispered warning sent by a message spells. But the Trust won't hesitate to eliminate a threat, whether with poison spell or blade. Typically, a target never sees the agent of their demise. Interesting things about Zilargo: most consider the Library of Cronenberg to be the finest repository of knowledge in Corvair. The Cronenberg Chronicle is the leading source of news in Corvair. Gnome chroniclers travel across Corvair in search of stories. The major cities of Zilargo maintain temples and shrines dedicated to every religion. Most Zil explore a few faiths before settling on one, while others practice multiple religions. Zil characters, family ties, and a nation shaped by intrigue. You need someone you can rely on. For the Zil, that's family. Unless you're an orphan, discuss your family with your DM. What's their business? Who's their favorite relative? Are you currently involved in any family schemes? Knowledge and power. The Zil prize knowledge above all else. Sage is a suitable background for any Zil. Charlatan and spy are also appropriate, reflecting their love of intrigue. Classes that specialize in melee combat are rare among the Zil. This is going back to the fact that they don't like to practice violence. The soldiers of Zilargo include rogues, bards, wizards, and artificers. And the Trust. In creating a Zil character, consider whether you have any ties to the Trust. A vast number of gnomes serve as the eyes and the ears of the Trust, reporting interesting information to a Trust handler. As an active agent, you could receive missions tied to your current adventures. If you and your companions are fighting the Emerald Claw, you might have a secondary assignment to eliminate a specific Claw agent or acquire a particular object from their base. While the spy background is a logical choice for a Trust agent, the agency recruits characters of every class and background. Your class abilities reflect specialized training and granted abilities, which were the magical equivalent of spy gadgets. Cities and sites. Corenberg, nestled against the base of the Seawall Mountains. Corenberg is the oldest city in Zilargo. Many aristocrats of other nations come to study in the famous library and the gnome colleges of Cronenberg. The ancestral citadel of House Civis is located here, as well as a host of temples, including the Codex Vault, Corvair's largest shrine to Aranat. Thorambar, this port city, drives musicians and artists from across Corvair. In addition to the legendary clubs and schools of music, Thorambar is on the cutting edge of arcane sound, the use of illusion magic to generate music. Throlinport, with its crisscrossing canals and its flooded streets, the capital of Zalargos, serves as the center of the gnome shipbuilding industry and a nexus for trade. Scores of ships make port here daily. Among the many beautiful things the city is known for are its spectacular coastal thunderstorms. Crowds gather on balconies and verandas to watch these awesome displays. The Tower of the Triumvirate rises over the central portion of the city. House Kundarak, House Civis, and House Cannith maintain outposts in the city, and the other Dragonmark houses station agents here as well. Zolenberg, hidden high in the Seawall Mountains, Zolenberg lies at the network of jewel mines. These mines face attacks by kobolds living in the mountains, as well as goblin raiders from Darkwood. Gnomes and dwarves inhabit the city. House Kundarak maintains a great value here, while House Thrash has completed construction of a large hall for the Prospectors Guild. In the aftermath of the last war, walking the streets of Kornberg, one might never know that the war occurred. Zalargo avoided most of the violence of the last war, and the cosmetic magic and illusions were employed to repair the few cities that suffered damage. Many Zil prefer to ignore the war completely, referring to it as that unpleasantness to the north. Nonetheless, Zalargo was a staunch island of Brightland during the war, providing the nation with ships, intelligence, and elemental weaponry. This aid left the nation with enemies. The Order of the Emerald Claw has launched attacks on Zell communities. Oh, it's gonna be. That time it wasn't a false alarm. Say that's one to clip for VTuber sneezes on Twitter. The Order of the Emerald Claw has launched attacks on Zell communities in certain cells of Braylon Swords and Liberty. Accused the Zell of manipulating Braylon. The Trust has contained these attacks, but it always anticipates more trouble ahead. Bless you. Thank you very much, Devin. The jewel miners of Eastern Zalargo often clash with the goblins of Dargoon and the kobolds that live in Seawall Mountains. These skirmishes could expand into wider conflicts. Overall, however, little has changed in Zalargo because the Trust keeps the nation on a steady path. Adventurers who travel through Zalargo would be wise to avoid causing trouble or drawing the Trust's attention. That is precisely that. So let me see. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the Corvair Gazetteer. Let's try to see if we can get the table of contents back. So we've just completed, this chapter, the Corvair Gazetteer. And so the next thing we're going to read a subsection called The Face of Corvair. And we're going to follow that with Chapter 3, The Sharn City of Towers. So, it's been a lengthy romp through this book, but it's really just because, this probably is the single text that has had the most depth of anything that we've read so far. It's a big book, and they are taking their good time in order to completely shape out the overall landscape of the region. And so that is very commendable. Well, it's commendable to me. Anyways, thank you very much for tuning in to Brainy the RPG Cat. I remain Brainy the RPG Cat. Once again, I'd like to take a moment to shout out my colleagues at GreatMedia.Games. We're partnered with GreatMedia.Games in order to bring you inexpensive TCG single cards. Visit GreatMedia.Games and use the code 10Infinity at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. Also, don't forget, through December, I am going to be collecting information from children. I'm going to be collecting donations from supporting Children's Hospital Colorado all the way through to December 31st. And this is to help out a mutual campaign that is being put forward by the group. a campaign that is put together by the group of Great Media Games. And speaking of which, we're more than likely going to go from here to a marathon that Great Media Games is currently holding in order to kick off this lengthy donation marathon. So let's go ahead and let's search Twitch for that. I just want to make sure that I have a look at it before I throw over to that channel. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So right now they've been playing a great variety of board games. They've also been playing tabletop RPGs. Right now, they're in the middle of a game called Cards Against Insanity. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna head over and we're gonna visit them right now. All right. So, thank you everybody for tuning in. So I might be on tomorrow night, even though it's not in the schedule. It's possible that I might take some creative time and do a little bit of writing for my own RPG. So that would be the first writing the RPG for a while if I was going to do that. And Monday, okay, I'm not going to be on, but it is still worth mentioning because I've set another recording date for episode 2 of One Shots from the Meowing Portal, and so that's more than likely what I'm going to be doing on Monday. But anyways, thank you everybody for tuning in. We're gonna head over to Hoff GMG Great Media Games right now for their 24-hour streamathon. All right, everybody. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you very much for watching.